there's also a huge wealth gap in this country. When you think about marginalized communities and having the opportunity to bridge that gap, not just in education, but also in resources.
Thank you to our sponsors of the Inside Story Hunters podcast. A big shout out to Chad Hill of Term Provider, home of Big Lou, Tiffany Wondros, CNR Services, Michael Valletta of Quick Cuts Media. Don't forget to subscribe at youtube.com, where you can follow our weekly episodes and get an automatic link to listen to our next guest sharing a part of their incredible inside story. So subscribe or listen on any podcast channel to your Inside Story Hunters podcast. Thanks for following us. Thanks for supporting us. Well, good morning, insiders. It's Lori with a story here with the famous Kim Williams, who unfortunately, as I say, sometimes our stars don't align and we have to virtually come together. But, that's how we've been working together for years. So thank you for being with us today and allowing me the opportunity to unveil a part of your incredible serial entrepreneur story. So are you ready to move some mountains together?
Yes, let's move them.
Awesome. Well, I have to start with this story. I know it's supposed to be about you, but I was having my little morning meditation session with God, who happens to be my boss since I work on God's payroll. And it hit me like a ton of bricks that March 3rd, 1996, I stood up in my last corporate sales job and literally said, I'm out, peace out. And the leaders and my coworkers and everybody were like, what are you doing, Lori? Like, you can't just leave a meeting when you decided. Fast forward, I wasn't just leaving the meeting, I was quitting that job. And they were like, what are you talking about? It was unexpected, but I just stood up and just said, I had enough. And when I drove home that day, like, what did I just do? Oh my God, which is going to be a perfect segue into your story on how you left corporate America and did something similar, what I call jumping off the cliff. And hopefully there's at least a puddle waiting for you. But when I got home, there was a black suitcase filled waiting for me at my doorstep in New Jersey. And I was newly married, absolutely not in a financial position to piece out on my job. But in that suitcase was artistry makeup and skincare and brochures and everything I needed to launch my makeup business. It was part of the Amway business. And it is, that story's for another day. But the fact that I'm sitting here interviewing you today and a big part of your story, one of your companies is Beauty Counter. And an incredible skincare and makeup line and so forth that I would love for you to talk about your journey. But how awesome is that today, that it's really two of us come together and we have so much in common, yet we're so different, so fire away, tell us, Beauty Counter, Brown Investors, everything. I'd love for you to unveil lots of your story.
Awesome. Hello, insiders. I'm Kim Williams, and I'm currently the co-founder and chief investment officer with Brown Investors. I am also one of the leaders with Beauty Counter. Beauty Counter, for those of you who have not heard, it is the leader in clean beauty, a $1 billion company. And similar to Lori's story, I actually spent time in corporate America. In fact, I spent 15 years in corporate America. And it was 4 years ago at the end of this month, actually, that I submitted my resignation.
Wow.
Spending a lot of time in the corporate sector. And when I remember coming home that day and my husband thought that I was insane. So a mother of 3 children, so obviously have responsibilities at home. And my response to him when I left was, I have until the end of April, another month of salary where I have saved some money and I am going to build my Beauty Counter business. And he thought, you are crazy. And in 2018, I started building. And in 2019, I became one of the highest ranked leaders within the companies as an executive director. And my journey has not necessarily been straight. It's actually zigzagged a little bit in that the background with Brown Investors which is a family-owned business for beginner and intermediate investors in the stock market and cryptocurrency. It really started because my father, he worked 30 plus years at a company, Fortune 100 company, and did not have enough to retire. And we actually got started with this company well before we ever formed an LLC. And because I started investing really early, I took his portfolio over, myself and a couple of other family members who got this business started, and my father was able to retire early. And so, you know, my passion really lies within doing the things that push you to be your best self. I love skincare, love makeup, especially within the women of color community. We are typically exposed to a higher toxic load. And so doing things that I feel are purposeful for my community are important, but also in bridging that kind of passion with investing, there's also a huge wealth gap in this country. When you think about marginalized communities and having the opportunity to bridge that gap, not just in education, but also in resources. And so here we are, Chief Investment Officer and co-founder of Brown Investors. I spend the majority of my time building this investment business. But I will definitely say that it was that leap into entrepreneurship through Beauty Counter that allowed me the additional time I needed to focus on building a startup with my family.
Adversity. You know, I love it when I meet someone and I've learned to not smile and not laugh when they think that, oh, I want to own my own business. It's going to be so cool. I'm going to do this. And the list goes on. And I admire it. You know, I love it having someone have that passion for entrepreneurship. But one of the words, one of your quotes, and I'm going to steal your thunder, but I want you to elaborate on it. It's adversity. It's the thing that kicks our butt. It's the thing that when you sign up to own your own company in any capacity, if you actually think the path is straight ahead, then you should get off the ride, because zigzag is, you're fortunate. At least you zigzagged, you kept going forward. But I found an incredible quote that you had stated in an interview where it said, adversity makes us human and overcoming adversity makes us powerful, and that your community is stronger than ever. So what I heard is adversity, you're human, powerful, and you are a part of a community. Talk about adversity and what your experience has been. I mean, there's been a few bumps.
I am originally from Memphis, Tennessee, and adversity is when your parents are raising you to be the absolute best that you can be. They tell you to go to school, get a great job, get a great education, and you're finding that your parents are living check to check. You're finding that you are essentially looking at your parents for school clothing, and it takes them an entire year to pay off a credit card. And you use that adversity and you see what you don't want to come forward in your adult life. And so as I watched my father he worked 3 jobs growing up. And in the middle of that, my mother, she was very ill. She has an autoimmune illness. However, that wasn't necessarily the adversity that pushed me to try really hard. It was really seeing how many hours my father had to work just to put food on the table. And
trading time for dollars and not enough dollars.
Exactly. And so I took that as ammunition that when he came home at 2:00 in the morning, because he worked a graveyard shift for one job, he worked during the day for another job, and he also worked on the weekends. But when he would come home from one of those jobs, I remember my senior year in high school, I was up filling out applications, reading through scholarships, and I'll never forget the day that Vanderbilt University accepted me. And he said, Kim, I have no idea how we're going to pay for this. And I said, Dad, don't even worry about it. I will get a scholarship. At the time, I was a straight A student, also an athlete. And so I used every moment in watching my parents struggle financially to know that not only can I achieve all the things that my parents were telling me, but I now in my adult life have the ability to reshape how people are thinking about what their final circumstances are. And so I went on, graduated from Vanderbilt. I started my career with a Fortune 100 company who classically trained me in sales, data, and analytics. And that particular company actually paid for me to get my MBA from one of the top business schools here in Atlanta, Georgia. I graduated from
Amazing.
business school at Emory. And then I took a leap to another Fortune 500 company and was recognized as one of the top 50 women in the industry. And so at that point, I was within years 10 to 11 of my career. And then what do you know? I'm married, I have children, and I delivered my third child in 2015. And so here I am. I've been working, I've been hustling, super excited about the wealth that I'm starting to accrue from maxing out my 401k to learning how to invest in the stock market. But I was incredibly starting to feel burnout. This was also the exact same period where my mom started to become ill again. And my father was still working back in 2015, 2016. And I took some time to reset. I knew I had a skill set, and that was investing. I also knew I had a skill set of selling. And so in 2018, I took the leap from corporate and I started selling clean beauty with Beauty Counter. And at the same time, I was in the background behind the scenes, building out this incredible investment company called Brown Investors with my family. And my father, when he retired in 2018, he now has the luxury of being home with my mom. I know when I have conversations with him, he often says, back in the day, Kim, I was chasing a dollar. Now I can do whatever I want. And I'm grateful for the struggle. I'm grateful for the adversity, but I'm most grateful for seeing the success that came through those moments that literally push you to be the very best that you can be and to not ever accept this idea of failure or this idea that you can't do it.
Yes. Well said. Which, I mean, say that quote, you know it, your favorite, one of your favorites. You have many, but go for it.
Adversity makes us human, and overcoming that adversity makes us powerful. And my community is more powerful and more stronger than ever.
Than ever. And I'm going to go to a question, Kim, and I have to ask it because you and I could, easily avoid something like this. But I say, we're the same. All lives matter, and I say that with love. But you're Black, I'm white. I'm from New Jersey, you're from Tennessee, you're Memphis, all these differences, I'm Jewish by religion, you're not. And society would just put us in these categories and say, you go over here and then you go over here. And at the end of the day, to understand our story, there's so much overlap, not only overlap, there's synergy there. And everything that you're talking about is the fact is you don't quit on yourself, right? And you have people that are depending on you. But the question is, Kim, talk about, or the question is really more of a statement that I'm asking you to just kind of, to allow organically to develop, which is, being a woman based on some of those factors that distinguish us as quote unquote different. How are we not different? I mean, when you see people through your eyes as a business owner, a mom, a wife, a friend, a human being, how do you see the world? If you eliminate all those, characteristics that put us in these little boxes?
So that's a tough question. because as a Black woman, all lives do matter, no doubt. But when we think about Black Lives Matter and everything that we as a community have faced,
Yes.
as either women of color or people of color, the struggle and the challenges have been quite different. With there's no repercussions, or there haven't been repercussions to Black people who have lost their lives just because of the color of their skin. So by no means do I want to minimize that movement by saying all lives matter, because all lives matter, no doubt. But putting it in context of Black Lives Matter, it is important for us to understand as a country that there is just a different hurdle that people of color have had to go through. Even when you look at the capital markets, the fact that our family is building out a Black-owned investment company designed to educate everyone in stock market and cryptocurrency is not something that has necessarily been done in the past. Yes, now we have a lot more people of color who are coming to the forefront, who are teaching other people of color how to invest. But when you look at the data and the statistics that showcase Caucasian, general market, Asian, Blacks, you see that huge gaps when it comes to 401ks, the $400 emergency, where if an American household has a $400 emergency, they may not have the $400, and disproportionately it's affecting my community. And so
Yes.
we definitely have a lot of similarities as women, because especially when I think back to my corporate life, in that most of the meetings were ran by men.
Yes.
Most people who are sitting in the executive boards are men. And
Mhm.
now looking at you and I, here we are sitting on the boards of our company, being
Yes.
the officers of our companies, still maintaining a sense of self and self-identity, raising children. And that in itself is an entirely different hurdle as a woman, because of the societal roles and responsibilities that have unspokenly been placed on us. But I definitely see the world from a unique perspective as a woman, but even more so unique as a Black woman. And it has always been this expectation, and this comes from some of my child rearing, in that it's important for you to be twice as good, twice as smart,
Yes.
twice as hard. And so I took that again as ammunition, in that I'm not just going to be a good student, but I'm going to be the most exceptional student out there. I graduated
Yes.
in the top 3 of my class. I was the third highest ranked student. But then when I think about colleges, it wasn't just good enough for me to just go to college. I wanted to prove to my parents that, hey, I can get accepted into any college, and it's my choice where I decide to go. And I matriculated successfully through a majority white college in Nashville and excelled. And I'm grateful for all these different unique opportunities, but I would be remiss to say that in sitting in classrooms in college, I was typically the only Black girl in the classroom. Sitting in classrooms when I went through business school, I was one of the few minorities sitting in the classroom. And so when I think about the opportunities that are extended and the resources, it's not necessarily as Black and white as that, in that I was able to go to a $40,000-$50,000 a year college almost free, because my parents were poor enough for me to get a grant to go to school.
Right.
And so that is like the adversity that I feel like I've overcome in order to realize the dreams where people would think there's no
Yes.
way you can start a business with little to no capital. But you can
Yes, you can. Mhm.
do so. And so, you know, here I am.
Amazing. Absolutely. It would be horrible if we didn't brag on Rodney. Let's talk about your life partner. The fact that you not only do you own multiple companies and everything that you just shared, but the fact that you both choose to work together. I mean, what's that experience like? I mean, to own a business and have a business partner is a business marriage, but you legitimately are married to each other, and he's like the yin to your yang. So let's talk about Rodney for a second and that experience on how you're merging your world every single day from the minute you start.
He is definitely the yin to my yang. He is the milk to my coffee. I love my husband. I actually met him in college. He played football at Vanderbilt. And, you know, one of the things that I love about being married in business with my husband, because he also runs another business entity under the Brown Investors brand. It's Brown Investors Wealth Management. He's the CEO and founder of Brown Investors Wealth Management, which is geared towards helping people retire. So he is a portfolio manager. He specializes in advanced options trading. And so while people who complain about volatility of the market, he's very skilled at not just protecting wealth, but also growing the wealth. And so while I can't talk about growth numbers because of compliance rules, I will say that if anyone is interested in either moving towards a comfortable retirement and or having someone who can be a very strong financial advisor to help you reach your goals, Brown Investors Wealth Management would be a great option to consider. But when I think about my husband and I and our journey with entrepreneurship, it's funny because we went into business together. Initially, we franchised, and for the privacy of the company, I won't say what franchise it was, but I will say that we made a significant investment in 2019, and then boom, 2020, the pandemic hit.
Unbelievable. Mhm.
And so while we could have gracefully stayed in that business, when we ran the numbers in terms of just payback period and the time and the energy it would take to keep building that business, we had to cut our losses. Just because while the business is something that we both cared about and still care about, we also have to be fiscally and financially responsible to know that we still have kids, we still have mouths to feed, we still have kids that we want to send to college completely debt free. And so those were some tough decisions that we've had to make over the past 24 to 36 months, which kind of leads us back to Brown Investors in that we have worked very well together in doing things that we both really love. And so part of my love for the business is helping bridge the gap in education, just with investing. And part of his passion is to help people who are already in retirement or close to retirement have this possible vision that, oh, wow, I've been working my entire life and I now can see that I can retire. Similar to my father, how when he retired, you know, he was just like, wow, you guys did it. And so to anyone out there listening, I think that whatever it is that you want to do in life, whatever it is that you dream, it most certainly is possible if you can just keep moving it forward. And
Your
don't.
Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh,
quote that you please.
Oh yeah. So one of my favorite quotes is by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which speaks to the fact that faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. And so entrepreneurship for me has really been around taking that first step and taking that second step and third step every single day, even when you don't see that entire staircase. And as you keep taking those steps, you start to see so much progress. You start to see all the fruits of your labor really beginning to unfold. And, I obviously have inside story to thank for some of that, just because without the work that you guys have done with our business and the foundation, the road would have been a lot more difficult, because you have a staff and a team that can take a baton and just run with it. Help build out those strategic pillars, help build out the foundation, and really being that right hand that's often needed in business. And if I must say, at an affordable price. So it's all worked out.
Well, I just, what you just said is just, taking the steps when with blind faith, and you have no guarantees. You're climbing a staircase, or you might fall down the staircase, God forbid, but still, I mean, you're stumbling, or you're stuck at one stair. You just can't move it to the next level, and you just find yourself stagnant. So everything you're describing is from that place of you as a human being. It is, and you're built this way. It's this fire that lives within you. It makes me think superpowers, right? Where, ferocious resolve, one of my two favorite words that I'll always carry with me, from good to great, right? Thanks to Jim Collins. But ferocious resolve is just, you can knock me down. I can knock myself down. And I have done that many times, making foolish mistakes, but you'll never keep me down. I mean, other than my health and God, who'll get to decide that there is that part of you, Kim, right? That just, you can't put words to it. You can't buy it, and you can't really even develop it. It lives within you. It's a blessing and a curse. So I would just say, that experience of I know that you were talking about that story. And if you don't mind, we're going to go back to it, because it was a difficult time for you and your family, because you were called to invest in that franchise. It was for your son, for your child. And you were representing your family. You were fighting for him. You were looking for solutions. That's who you are. There's that part of you that is ridiculously passionate and has to move a mountain, not to prove anything, but to solve something. So just for a few minutes, go back to the journey of, you invest, you have to make the tough decision to make the changes, and to pivot. It's a powerful word, to pivot, to change, redirect. But it was you were doing it for your family. So what's your biggest takeaway from that experience, that time of investing and having to unravel it?
The biggest experience from franchising. So for those of you who are listening, my son had a speech challenge, and my husband and I caught it really early, in that we knew there was nothing intellectually wrong with him. But in terms of his ability to articulate, there were some major challenges. And my husband and I took a leap. We discovered a business opportunity that could actually help other families. And going back to being a person of color, I just have to say that the first thing that came to my mind was, my son needs to be articulate. If he can't communicate well with the rest of the world, he's already up against other challenges with just being a Black boy in America.
Mm-hmm.
And so my husband and I followed our hearts. We made a pretty significant investment. And the things we learned were that it goes to the human factor of connectivity. Everybody has a story. Mm-hmm. And as bad as you may think your struggles are, they actually may not be as bad when you think about someone else's situation. And so being an owner in that franchise was likely one of the most humbling business experiences I've had, in that even if the balance sheets and the income statements didn't work out when it comes to how much was invested versus how much revenue was being produced, seeing the amount of lives that we touched on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis, and seeing the progress of so many other children, because we'd already seen the progress with our son, who speaks very articulate now. My son actually will turn 7 this month, and you never know that he went through speech therapy. And so the lesson to be learned was that you have to invest in the things that you care about, because those are the things that propel you forward to do other things that will return high returns on investment. The saying is very true that you don't have to chase money. If you chase your dreams, the money will follow. And that's exactly what's happened with Brown Investors. So,
and you're able to pay it forward by educating, inspiring, and helping people detour. Like, hold on, don't go left, go right. Whether they take your advice or not, right? It's just you're a guide and you're speaking from experience. I think one of my most favorite parts today about owning my own company, being a podcaster, it's diversifying revenue streams is a big one. I love it. It's powerful. Becoming smarter and more aware, trading dollars for time, like your dad, 3 jobs, we didn't know better, but one of my favorite parts about being in the driver's seat of my bus as a business owner, a serial entrepreneur, is the fact that if I want to invest dollars and I want to spend money, and it may not show up as a smart ROI, I don't look back. I trust myself enough to move things forward, to invest, and I will bet on myself any day, anytime, as long as I know that ferocious resolve within me says the passion makes sense to me. I get it. This will move. I believe it'll move mountains. And even if I make a mistake, who cares? So if I invest some dollars and I just could have thrown it in a campfire and lit it and burned it, then I'll say, darn, I shouldn't have done that, but I'm glad I did. And the fact that you can't take that away from me for as long as I'm a business owner and moving forward, that's what feeds me. Can you resonate with what I'm saying?
I can totally resonate with what you're saying. Like Beyonce Knowles said it best, or Beyonce, when she talks about placing a bet. If I'm gonna take a bet on anything, it will be myself. And I hope all the listeners out there have heard of Beyonce. Of course, she's a GOAT. She's one of the greatest of all times. But yeah, if I'm gonna place a bet, hands down, it's gonna be a bet on myself. And it doesn't matter how many mistakes are made or how many lessons have to be learned, but you only get one life. And it's important to pursue those things that are like eating at you, because they were put into your heart and your soul for a reason.
You call it the inside story. It's talking to you, right? Sorry. So
you don't want to ever look up one day and say, I wish I had.
Right. And people say, oh, I have no regrets. We all have regrets, because the mistake equates to a regret. It's at what level? Selective memory. And most of what I would say is a regret was just, it put me in a different position. It educated me. I said, the more painful the experience, God's saying, take notes, Lori, shush your face, listen, document, because I'm going to put somebody in your path, or multiple people, that are going to need your voice of reason. So, I mean, it's just invest. Yeah, I'm going to bet on myself, because at the end of the day, I've got God in me, and I need it to be purposeful. And so being able to whatever, I've said it on several podcast episodes where I've gotten over do you like my hair? Do you think, my tone of my voice? Do you want to listen to me or not? Who cares? I'm betting on the fact that I'm going to find one heck of an inside story that if it influences one more person who otherwise would have never met you, Kim, and who invests with you or researches beauty counter, or whatever it is, just is called to do something because they heard something from the sharing of the inside story of Kim Williams, I just say, bring it on. That's what we need to be doing, telling a story and getting away from. I was just with someone yesterday and we were discussing the importance of her insights. She said, anything I really have to say, I don't believe is important. And that's through my family and even my business. And to know this woman and her story that we're soon going to unveil breaks my heart. Everybody has something to say. It's back to what you said about your son, that another factor, if we don't know how to communicate well, and we don't know how to articulate, I don't care what the color of your skin is. It's Les Brown was talking about that. It's one of his 3 key factors or something where he says you have to be able to communicate well. You need to know who you should hang out with personally and professionally. So it is important.
Right.
So, but it would not be an inside story episode if I didn't ask you the important question of where I set the stage and I say, may you live to be 300 years old. You're always with us. And that, it's many, many more years to come that the world will get the opportunity to hear your story and meet you. And I would just say, but the time comes and you're no longer physically with us here in this world. What's your legacy? What's the footprint that you're going to leave? You talk about step 1, 2, and 3. What does that look like? How do you want to be remembered, Kim? What really is important to you in the work that you do every day?
I want to be remembered in knowing that I was fearless in moving my dreams forward, because my dreams are much bigger than me, my family, my friends, that my dreams have the ability to affect an entire world. And so once that dream is fully realized, I see the day where Brown Investors is running a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund. We have not just millions of assets under management through Brown Investors Wealth Management, but we also have billions. And oh, by the way, it's Black owned, to show someone else what is possible. And so that's the footprint. That's the legacy. Be fearless, be courageous, and create your own path. Create the paths, even if you've never seen them before.
No matter what the factors are, no matter what the obstacles are, I mean, there's always a solution for everything. And it's not even a solution. It's waiting. It's just, you said it, you're changing people's mindsets. If we change what we think, Think and Grow Rich. I mean, there's 60 million books, lots of courses, you name it, the whole thing, people that are out there every single day, every second of the day, talking about the power of the mind. So you lead with such a powerful presence because the way you articulate and how you lead mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. So how can we close the episode of the Inside Story Hunters, where Kim Williams, the co-founder and CEO of Brown Investors LLC and more, give us some closing thoughts and ideas. And we should say, where can we reach you? What website should we reach out to? What phone number should we call?
Absolutely. So I have my own personal website and also business websites. But if you ever want to reach out to me directly, feel free to go to KimberlyWilliamsInc.com. And it's basically just my story, who I am, and you can reach out to me. For Beauty Counter, you can always go to my website, beautycounter.com/Kim Williams. You can also contact me through that website if you're looking at any clean beauty options. And then last but definitely not least, Brown Investors. Just visit our website, browninvestors.com, visit any of our social handles, and engage with us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Brown Investors is definitely doing some incredible things, just like Beauty Counter is doing some amazing things. But we'd love to connect with anyone out there who's interested in investing in clean beauty or investing some dollars to grow their wealth. And so I really appreciate the time, Lori.
I'm grateful for you to join the Insiders and I. And for those of you who are listening, subscribe. Go to youtube.com, look up Inside Story Hunters and subscribe so that when Kim Williams' episode comes out and she shares a bit of her powerful inside story, that you'll be able to not only listen to it, but you can watch it if you so choose. And again, Kim mentioned Kimberly Williams Incorporated, or Kimberly Williams, inc.com, to make it easy. Go to her. And actually, there's a great video of her telling a bit of her story that you'll really enjoy and you'll love. So if you're looking to start a business, beauty, skincare and makeup and things of that sort, and supporting women and clean environment, then what a great opportunity. You want to invest, you want to change your family's life and the trajectory of the future generations to come, then you're going to reach out for Brown Investors. And there's just so much to your story, whether it's helping people make money, change their lives, at the same time, just somebody to laugh with. So in my eyes, you've moved many mountains. I tasked you with only moving one, and I think it's a job well done. So girlfriend, thank you for being with us here on the Inside Story Hunters.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye for now.